I call the September 21st City Council meeting to order. We are doing a remote meeting this evening. And before we move on to tonight's agenda items, I'd like to acknowledge what our remote meeting format looks like. On March 6th, I issued an emergency proclamation declaring a civil emergency in the city due to the COVID-19 outbreak. On March 24th, the governor issued Proclamation 20-28 prohibiting meetings that fall under the Open Public Meetings Act, such as our city council meetings, from being conducted in person. The prohibition has been extended through October 1st. So tonight's meeting will be held entirely remotely. The meeting will be recorded, streamed live, and available for later viewing on the city's YouTube channel. A call-in number was provided on the meeting agenda for members of the public who wish to call in by phone, to listen live to the meeting, or make comments. For those members of the public on the call, welcome. And for those of you who have submitted the online form to make comments, your name will be called under the audience comments portion of this meeting. And if there is anyone on the call who did not sign up but would like to make comments tonight, please press *3 on your phone and we will add you to our speakers list this evening. I am going to check in on the attendance of our council members, and we'll be taking a roll call of the council members in attendance. So please stay here when I call your name. Councilmember DeMichelle?
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Goodman?
Here.
Councilmember Hall?
Here.
Council President Hunt?
Here.
Councilmember Martz?
Here.
Deputy Council President Ray?
Here.
And Councilmember Walsh?
Here.
All 7 council members are here this evening. We also have various staff participating in tonight's meeting, including City Administrator Wally Bobkowitz, Deputy City Administrator Andrea Snyder. I did see our Director of Parks and Community Services, Jeff Watling, is on. Transportation Manager John Mortensen, Economic Development Manager Jen Davis-Hayes, Human Services and Social Sustainability Coordinator Monica Negrilla, City Attorney Jim Haney, and Deputy City Clerk Tisha Gieser. Other city staff may also be in attendance this evening. I'd like to reiterate some meeting guidelines. Please remember to speak clearly and pause frequently. State your name each time before speaking. Mute your microphone when you're not speaking. And for members of the public, if you are also streaming the live video feed, please turn down the sound off. Please turn the sound off as there is a bit of a delay. The next item on the agenda for this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would ask if your microphones could be muted, but please feel free to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda this evening is audience comments, and I know we have people signed up to speak this evening. So I want to make sure that I provide a little guidance before we start. So please make sure to direct your comments to the whole council and not individuals. And while this audience comments is not a question and answer session, we will contact you to follow up if needed. When you are recognized, please unmute your microphone, and on your phone, *6 may be that option. State your name and address and relationship to the city. Speak clearly and pause frequently. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes and remute your microphone when done. There's also a public hearing this evening on AB 7993, Temporary Regulatory Relief for Businesses, Use of Sidewalk, Private Property, and Signage, Interim Zoning Regulations. If you would like to make comments on this topic, you will have an opportunity later in the meeting. If you do not respond after your name or phone number is called, or if your connection is lost unexpectedly, the meeting will need to proceed. So I'm getting a note from the clerk that there may have been a portion in here under the public hearing that is not for this evening.
Yes, Mayor Polly, I'm sorry. I'd like to clarify that was my mistake on the public hearing. The public hearing being held tonight is on the topic of the Transportation Improvement Program.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So if you did not respond after your name or phone number has been called, or if your connection is lost unexpectedly, the meeting will still need to proceed, and you are encouraged to rejoin the meeting if you are able to. Again, for those who have joined us tonight and would like to speak but did not sign up in advance, please press *3 now on your phone, and we will call the first 6 digits of your phone number when it's your turn to make comments. Personal attacks, obscene language, derogatory remarks, and disruptive behavior will not be permitted. And if a speaker is out of order, I will ask them to stop and mute their microphone. If a speaker does not comply, I may have to direct staff to mute their microphone. And if a disruption to the meeting occurs and order cannot be restored, I may direct staff to remove you from the call. Citizens' comments, both written and verbal, are an important aspect of the public process, and the city takes these comments seriously. We thank you for taking the time to come in tonight and to address us. So, City Clerk, could you please identify the first person who has signed up to speak this evening?
Yes, I don't see the first person who had signed up, which was Beth Javins. Beth, I don't see your number here. If you are on the call, please press *3 to raise your hand and let us know you're here. The next speaker signed up is Sharon Freyes. Sharon, I'm unmuting you now.
Thank you very much. My name is Sharon Freyes. I'm the owner of Art by Fire, along with my husband at 195 Front Street North. I'm also the Vice President of DIA. I'd like to thank the City Council for their consideration and all the hard work they've put in during this pandemic. This is not easy times. It calls for much wisdom and decision making. And thank you for your service. I wanted to speak tonight in support of the CARES Act bill that has been put in front of City Council. This strikes what I believe is a good balanced approach for Issaquah. It does provide money for human services. It also provides money for economic support. The best thing we can do for all of us is to move forward on trying to get back on a more even, normal keel and create that feeling of normalcy for the community. Supporting our businesses and providing the environment like we have with the Streetery, where people can feel a sense of community and feel a chance to engage and relax and feel a little more close to a normal life, is, in my opinion, the best thing we can do to move things forward and make life better for everyone in Issaquah. Creating that sense of normalcy and attracting people to the downtown will help stabilize our tax base, and having a good, strong tax base is the best thing we can do to support the city and its ability to be able to provide additional human services for everyone. So thank you very much. I'm very proud to be part of DIA, and I'm extremely thrilled with how the city and DIA have worked together to pull this together and create a good community program for the whole community to feel like we are truly welcome and getting somewhat back to normal. So thank you for your consideration tonight, and I appreciate the time to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. City Clerk, who's next up on our list this evening?
The next speaker is Art Fries. And Art, I've unmuted you.
Hello, this is Art Fries, also owner of Art by Fire at 195 North Front Street. If we're going to recover from the pandemic, we need to have that business space to be there. That business space depends on each of the businesses making it through. And from the people side, that we have 4 employees at our business. We have people who make glass. We have people who run our gallery. We have people who help us with our marketing. And, you know, this program is going to help the other businesses bring people down into the town. It may help our business directly. And that's really critical that we survive this, because we serve the people as well in interesting ways. We got an email the other day of somebody begging us, you know, like, how can I come down and make an ornament with my wife? We've done this for 12 years. You know, we want to keep that alive. And to be there when things open back up, the businesses need to survive this tough time. We make a lot of our, yearly income for the business is made from, events, bringing people in to make ornaments. And it just, for all these businesses on Front Street and Gilman and throughout the town, they've got to make it through this time because all their businesses are way down. The Streetery's been really good, and, Dia's been a godsend in helping us in this summer. But as the weather gets colder, we're not going to have the Streetery, all year or through December or January probably. So, we're going to need other help to get it through those tough times. And I don't want to see, I want to see Front Street be that vibrant place that, made us decide to continue and buy the business and continue Art by Fire as part of the community. And I really want to thank the city for being a partner to us through this difficult time. Thank you very much. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Art. City Clerk, who's next up on our list this evening?
Next, we have Rick Reagan. Rick, I've unmuted you.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys giving me a few minutes to talk. I feel like I'll be saying some of the same things that other members and other merchants have already said, but I want to first start off by saying thank you to all the volunteers. I'm out there setting up outside the restaurant on a weekly basis, and they are so open to coming in and helping and doing whatever is needed to make sure that we have a really successful Streetery event on that Friday and Saturday and Sunday nights. I can tell you that in my past experience, I did a lot of event planning, and so I have an understanding of what it takes to organize such an event and execute it flawlessly and safely. And the team that's been in charge of doing so has just done a fantastic job. So a big thank you to the City of Issaquah, to the Downtown Association, and to all the merchants working together. I think some really solid relationships have been formed over the summer, both between the association and the merchants, and between the merchants as well. So it's been a real pleasure. I also am in a great opportunity to get feedback from a lot of our citizens, since I interact with quite a few of them on a daily basis in the restaurant. I try to table touch just about every table, and I've gotten a really consistent message of hope, and I think that's really powerful. A message of, we're all in this together. What can we do to make sure that the Streetery or something similar continues on? Not only is it good for the merchants, it's good for and the restaurant merchants and the other merchants surrounding, but I truly feel that it's good for the overall health of our community. It brings all of us together in these troubled times. So from my standpoint in my little business, I can tell you that the Streetery has brought apart about a 55% overall increase in my revenue. That's enabled me to bring back 2 full-time employees back to the restaurant, and be able to, so they can provide for their families, which is just wonderful. It's also provided much needed cash flow for myself and my family. But it's troubling as we get towards the end of summer of what we're going to do. If we still remain in the same phase as we are right now, I'm deeply troubled with what the fall and winter could bring to all of us. So I really am available to brainstorm on ideas of how we can all work together and continue the positive progress that we've made. I'd also want to take a moment to just remind all of us, and this is a reminder for me and my wife Reese as well, that it's got to be a single vision for all of us. It can't just be a vision that works for the restaurants but doesn't work for the merchants, or vice versa. It's really got to be a vision that we create. The reason I bought, and I might have said this last time, the reason I bought that business in Issaquah is, one, I fell in love with the food and I fell in love with the team, but I fell in love with this little community, and I just feel blessed to be a part of it each and every day. So I look forward to it. I thank everyone who's been involved. Please, let's all be open and really, really brainstorm on how we can and what we can do to continue the momentum that we've gotten over the summer and bring that into the fall. So it's just been a pleasure, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Rick, thank you. And before we go to the next speaker, it is fine if you want to reiterate that you support the comments that you've heard already. That's great. And then just feel free to add on anything new that you want to add. So Rick, you did both. We heard some new things from you as well. So next speaker, City Clerk.
Yes, the next speaker who's raised their hand is the caller with the last two digits 19. I've unmuted you.
Hi, I think that's me. I'm Shauna London, and I'm a longtime Issaquah resident, and I'm a DIA volunteer, and I'm also a mental health psychotherapist practicing busier than I've ever been during this trying time. So I speak from all those places. I too am very proud to be connected to this city, and what we have done to get through this together is just, I eat at the Streetery probably every weekend, and I just feel good on so many levels. Good about my community, good about myself, good about helping the restaurants. It's just a great thing. But truly, as a mental health practitioner, I will tell you that particularly after the smoke thing and everything, people are just needing to have safer places to go. This is not something that's going to end soon. We are in it for the long haul, and encourage Issaquah to extend the Streetery as long as it's viable, and then to keep thinking of ideas that can help people to get out and feel like we're connected. It really is going to help us all get through. Thank you again for all that you do, and for just making things like this possible. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Shauna. And who is our next speaker this evening?
Our next speaker is the phone-in caller with the last two digits 07. I've unmuted you.
Hi, this is Bob Hanna. I'm a volunteer with the DIA. Been doing it since the inception of the Streetery and years before with our jazz sessions and other projects. Just to reiterate what Rick and I know Sharon has said, there are a lot of merchants and restaurant owners and people that really haven't talked with each other, that haven't come together until we were faced with these trying times. And the sense of community that I've seen and how it's grown since we first started this is very impressive. I've been in the area. I taught paragliding since 1992 at Tiger Mountain, and very much feel like I'm a part of the community. I know that there are alternatives that we can do as a community, hopefully with funds that are available to keep the Streetery going, increase the possibility of more days in the week, and just make it so that people like Rick and all our other merchants have a place that people know that they can come to and be able to enjoy themselves. And as our mental health professional just said, just have a sense of well-being. And the number of smiles that we've seen and the number of people that we've seen from out of our community that actively made it a point to come to Issaquah just because of that feeling, I think is wonderful. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I look forward to doing whatever I can to help implement some sort of a semi-permanent temporary solution to the problems we have with our rainy weather season. And from what I've seen in other parts of the world, I know that we can certainly do something that would be appropriate for our rainy seasons, that would still allow the merchants to have the people come and be a part of our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. City Clerk, who do we have next up to speak?
Our next caller is the individual with the last two digits 04. I've unmuted you.
I think that's me. Is that correct?
We can hear you coming through, yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Just wanted to say good evening, Council and Mary Lou. My name is Kim Christensen. I live on Gibson Lane off Wildwood on the backside of Squack Mountain. I've been there for 26 years. And like Bob, I'm a volunteer for the Downtown Issaquah Association. And if you've been to the streetery, Bob and I typically man that front and Sunset vehicle, the black vehicle, that the black SUV on Sunset and Front Street for the emergency purposes. First thing I want to say is thank you to the approval by the council for when we did our first 2-week issue with the pilot program, and the council approved us continuing forward, and I sure thank them, and thank you so much. Being at the position I'm at, I have an opportunity to speak to a lot of people coming into the streetery or exiting the streetery. And I probably speak to, I'm guessing, probably 20 people on a weekend. I'm there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, spend about 30 hours every weekend, and not one person has had a negative comment. Everybody has been very positive of thank you, great thing, do it again, continue after the virus. We're very positive on this. You know, thank you for volunteering, and this is a great thing. And everybody has been very positive. I know Ken of Jack's pretty well, and he at Jack's and L42, and they have been so positive of, God, thank you so much. This has been a really good opportunity for us to increase our revenue, and very, very positive. So I would just say that if we can do, you know, whatever we can do and work together with the city, is if we can extend to some degree our tenting, whatever we can kind of do to continue the streetery, I think that the merchants would be very positive to that effect. And, you know, we will do at DIA, of course, whatever we can do to entertain that and be positive and be helpful on that. So I thank you so much. So anyway, thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you for all of the speakers for volunteering. We appreciate that. City Clerk, is there someone else on the line for audience comments?
At this time, no one else has indicated a desire to speak, but one last call out. If there's anyone else on the line who'd like to make comments this evening and hasn't already, please press *3 on your phone. That's *3 to let us know you'd like to speak. And I'm just taking a quick look here. I see one more caller, or two more callers who've indicated a desire to speak. The first one is the caller with the last 2 digits, 04. I've unmuted you.
Hi, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak real quick. My name's Ken from Jack's Grill and from L42 Canteen and Sunset Ale House. And thank you, Kim, for the very nice comments. And thank you very much to everybody from the City of Issaquah and the Downtown Issaquah Association for everything that they've done to make the streetery happen, and all the volunteers, and just the incredible, just effort to come together to make it happen. I know that there's a lot of red tape that has to happen to allow something of that magnitude happen, and it really has been an incredible, it's been an incredible way for us to welcome back a lot of our guests who are unwilling to dine indoors for various reasons, and that's great. And to be able to get a lot of them back and see their faces, and to be able to serve them and take care of them with the ability to seat outdoors has been incredible. It's allowed me, with the restaurants on Front Street and also with the city's kindness, to allow some help over at the ale house, where we're in a parking lot, and have some outdoor seating has really allowed not just our Issaquah businesses to survive, but we have 2 businesses in Seattle that do not have any outdoor seating, did not get the kind of support that we've had in Issaquah, with the streets being able to be closed and the red tape to be able to be gotten through in order to help those businesses the way that the Issaquah has come together to do it. So it's been able to continue to bolster my ability to keep all of my staff that I have on at the Seattle stores, not just Issaquah. So I want you to know that the impact is farther reaching than just the community that it serves. And I live out here. All my business partners live on the east side, and we can't thank you enough. So whatever we can do to move forward and help both the Streetery and the city of Issaquah to help make decisions that do the kind of things that this has done, we're all for it. And I'm easy to reach. I'm always around. And I just really want to say thank you for everything. So that's it.
Thank you. That's great. City Clerk, we have one more.
We do. The next speaker is Christina Bruning. Christina, I've unmuted you.
Okay, thank you. This is Christina Bruning. I'm the board president of the Downtown Issaquah Association. And Madam Mayor and members of the council, on behalf of the Downtown Issaquah Association, which includes merchants and members of the community, I personally have the pleasure of extending our sincere gratitude to all of you for your support. Our mission is to cultivate a thriving Old Town that builds community and celebrates our charm. The regulatory relief and the Streetery have made a significant and positive impact on the quality of life during these uncertain times. Numerous businesses have leveraged the sidewalk and private lot use, the Streetery footprint, and even a local park to expand their business service areas. About 80%, or 19 of the eateries in the heart of Old Town have participated in the Streetery and private lot use. Of the 5 non-participating, 2 eateries remain closed and 2 are continuing a takeout business model at this particular time. Countless volunteers have dedicated themselves to being good neighbors and lending a helping hand, a generous smile, and deep gratitude to support our community in surviving, all with the simple hope that the fabric of our historic district remains strong and has the potential of thriving in the future. The Streetery itself is a true community collaboration. Merchant teams, community members, and city staff have all rolled up their sleeves. With competing priorities across the city for both human services and economic development, we recognize the challenge to meet all the needs. We're recommending the City Council support Agenda Bill 8032 in allocating funds to both important needs in our great city. Supporting the Streetery supports 19 eateries, plus retail and service businesses, as well as the health of our community. Historic downtown Issaquah boasts a strong knit community of business and people who live, work, and play, stretching the value of our dollars beyond the benefit of a single business. The pedestrian way has been embraced by the community as a safe place to stroll and recreate, enjoy family and pets, and support restaurants, retail, and service businesses in a healthy way outside, among our Issaquah treasures and with the mountains as a backdrop. As the seasons shift, the district is continuing to look for creative ways to remain open during the next 6 months. We ask the City of Issaquah to continue to support the regulatory relief efforts established earlier this year to ease doing business in Issaquah. Again, it's my pleasure to thank you all for your leadership of our community and support of a historic downtown district that is alive inviting, and vibrant. Thank you so much for all of your service.
Thank you, Christina. I'm going to check in with the city clerk and see if there is anyone else signed up, and then I will summarize if not.
No one else has signed up or indicated a desire to speak.
Thank you, city clerk. So we heard from a lot of the partners tonight that work with the city on trying these innovative and creative ideas during a very difficult time. So thank everybody for coming. We heard about the benefit to the businesses, the benefit to the community, and creating those community connections where people can actually see their friends and look at them eye to eye. And we've also heard from some retailers down in Old Town as well. So thank you all for coming in this evening and sharing your thoughts with our city council and my administrative team. Please stay around with us for the rest of the meeting, or you're able to drop off and watch it on home and video if you'd like. So thank you all. I also want to remind viewers and those that are here tonight that written comments can also be submitted at any time to the City Council at their email address, citycouncil@issaquah.gov. In addition, any comments that were received by email on any of tonight's agenda topics will be acknowledged by the Council President Hunt under the relevant agenda item. The next item of business this evening is committee and regional reports, and I will start by calling on Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. This is Zach Hall. I'll just pull over my notes real quick. I have 3 quick reports for council today. First, the next meeting of the King County Affordable Housing Committee is on Wednesday, September 30th at 1 p.m. Unfortunately, though, I don't have an agenda for that meeting yet, so I'm not able to share. But if you're interested in the ongoing work of the Affordable Housing Committee, let me know, and I'll let you know first thing when I know. The next meeting of the King County Cities Climate Collaboration is an elected officials work session on Thursday, October 8th at 3 p.m. During that time, the group hopes to discuss shared climate priorities ahead of the 2021 legislative session. Hear highlights from King County's 2020 Strategic Climate Action Plan, and then also see the final version of the Climate Action Toolkit, so long-awaited toolkit. So feel free to let me know if you'd like to tune in, City Council or community members. And then lastly, the next meeting of the Cascade Water Alliance Board of Directors is this coming Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. We'll again be discussing the organization's 2021 through 22 budget and rates options. And at the last board meeting, we were presented with a number of policy questions that will help guide our conversation about budgets and rates. And earlier today, I forwarded that information on those items to the City Council, and I'll be asking for your guidance you may have for Mayor Pauly and I during tonight's Good of the Order. And that concludes my reports.
Thank you, Councilmember Hall. Next up is Councilmember DeMichelle.
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. This is Councilmember DeMichelle. I have 2 reports tonight. First, I attended the Eastside Transportation Partnership on September the 15th. And during our regular Metro Transit briefing, we learned that there has been a gradual increase in Metro service to meet increased demand. As of last Tuesday, the agency was up to 73% of its pre-COVID bus trips. Remember, back in March, they fell to 20% of their usual trip and passenger load. The Eastside Transportation Partnership has been meeting with combined regional transportation groups for the past 4 months. The group voted on Tuesday to continue our monthly combined meetings through January, but with the addition of Zoom breakout rooms for the 3 regional groups starting in October. In addition to ETP, I attended a meeting of the Eastside Transportation Association on September 16th. And report number 2 is I attended the Eastside Human Services Forum Board of Directors on September the 17th. The group is conducting an organizational review, and that discussion took up most of the meeting. On September 29th, there will be a special Eastside Human Services Forum meeting focused on further discussion of the organizational plan. Thank you. That's my report for tonight.
Thank you, Councilmember DeMichelle. Councilmember Walsh.
Thank you. This is Councilmember Walsh. I have 3 quick reports. First, we still have not had an Economic Development District Board meeting. The next one is October 7th, and we don't have an agenda yet. On Friday, I attended the Chamber of Commerce's meeting, continued to brief them on budget situation and answer questions that they may have about that, and some of the upcoming bills, and so just keeping in contact. And then finally, the Title 18 Ad Hoc Committee has resumed meeting, which we're very eager to do. Yes. So we have now met, I guess, technically 3 times. Once just to get our bearings, then the 3 council members met as an aside to kind of refresh where we're at, make some recommendations, and then finally we met again with staff to go over that. What we've kind of come to the conclusion is we want to start back where we were in February and March, really focus in on the outcomes, goals, and those things. So what we're doing right now is council members from the ad hoc committee are reviewing that. We're going to give feedback to staff. And then we know it's obviously going to come up during budget season. We are still reviewing what our options are before being able to really come to a conclusion between the 3 of us. So I think you'll see a placeholder number there in the budget that we could then talk more about as we get a little bit more information on that. And that's what I had written down on the notes. If any of the other ad hoc members want to add anything, certainly be willing to, but I'm glad that we are meeting again and making progress. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Walsh. Councilmember Goodman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is Councilmember Goodman. The Eastside Fire and Rescue Board of Directors Committee, Finance and Administrative Committee, will meet this Wednesday at noon. And on the agenda is continued discussion of the proposed budget, which will be a recommendation to the full board on October 8th. And I believe we have the chief coming to a council meeting. I think it's next week, but I can't remember the exact date. I apologize. So if somebody wants to fill that, maybe Administrator Bob Quitz knows that date. But anyway, that is my report. And thank you, Councilmember Walsh. I thought you did a fine job of updating everybody on where the Title 18 Ad Hoc Committee is. Thank you.
City Administrator Bob Quitz, you know the date that EFOR is coming to our meeting?
Yes, ma'am. Next Tuesday, the 29th.
Thank you very much. Next up is Councilmember Martz.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is Councilmember Martz. The Sound Cities Association Public Issues Committee met on Wednesday, September 9th from 7 till 9 p.m. No action was taken. The Puget Sound Regional Council Growth Management Policy Board met on Thursday, September 17th from 10 a.m. till noon. The only action that was taken was the board recommended that the PSRC Executive Board certify the sub-area plans for City of Bellevue Downtown, City of Burien Urban Center, City of Puyallup Downtown, and City of Puyallup South Hill. No other actions were taken. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Martz. Deputy Council President Ray.
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. This is Chris Ray. The King County Growth Management Planning Council will meet on September 30th at 4:00 p.m. via Zoom meeting, and the agenda for that meeting has not yet been published. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you. Council President Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The WIRA 8 Salmon Recovery Council met on September 17th. WIRA 8 stands for Water Resource Inventory Area 8, and that's the technical name for our watershed. At the meeting, we reviewed our legislative priorities and a draft letter to Governor Inslee regarding those legislative priorities and funding priorities for salmon recovery for our watershed. We also received a status update on the salmon returns so far for 2020. And we reviewed the Salmon Recovery Council's funding guidance for the project subcommittee, which will be reviewing project proposals to fund, as well as we discussed the communications and outreach plan for the coming year. The next meeting is November 19th at 2 to 4:15 p.m. and will be conducted by Zoom. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Council President Hunt. I'm going to move to the next item, which is the mayor's report, and ask if our city clerk can share her screen because we have a few pictures to go along with the report. Thank you, Tisha. So the first thing under the mayor's report this evening is that we will be having an executive session to discuss pending and potential litigation per RCW 42.30.110(1)(I), and the item is expected to last 30 minutes, and no action is anticipated this evening when we come back into open session. I want to talk a little bit about the Mallard Bay Trail Agreement. Laughing Jacobs Creek Trail has been a regional vision of trail planners in King County for over 20 years. It's a trail that would connect Providence Point and the Sammamish Plateau to the East Lake Sammamish Trail. A 12-foot wide paved public trail has been constructed along Southeast 43rd as part of the Mallard Bay Development Project. Though small, this little piece of public infrastructure plays a big role in the potential of this long envisioned trail corridor. As the first parcel on the south side of 43rd, this portion of public trail will serve as the gateway of the potential future Laughing Jacobs Creek Trail as it heads east from East Lake Sammamish Parkway. Rather than end up with a choppy and/or disjointed trail segment, this 12-foot wide trail segment has the potential to link directly with the future trail that could run along the abandoned rail corridor through State Park property up towards Providence Point and the Plateau. It has been a real team effort, and I'd like to thank the developer, Bernstead Construction, King County Parks, our City Attorney, Jim Haney, and the city staff in Parks, Planning, Public Works, for all the collaborative effort that had to occur in order for this to happen. I also would like to have some comments, make a few comments on the passing of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Last Friday, we learned of the passing of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a lifelong champion for gender equality, and as Chief Justice John Roberts described her, a tireless and resolute champion of justice. There have been quiet candlelight vigils in many cities and towns throughout the country through this weekend, including on the steps of Issaquah City Hall last night. Her 50 years of advocacy on gender equality broke down the barriers for women and strengthened women's rights, creating opportunity and equality for women. U.S. and Washington state flags will be at half staff until the day of interment. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg leaves behind an incredible legacy, and she will be missed. And that concludes the mayor's report for this evening. The next item on our agenda is the consent calendar, and it was distributed in advance to council. If authorized, the items on the consent calendar will be considered together and approved by one motion. Have the payables and payroll been reviewed?
Mayor Polly, this is Chris Ray. They have.
I was glad to let Councilmember Ray go first. Yes, they have. Thank you.
Thank you both. Does any council member desire to move any item from the consent calendar and consider it under regular business? And I would like to go to the city, not hearing none, I would like to go to the city clerk for a quick clarification. Clerk?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that on the consent calendar, agenda item C, the September 8th regular meeting minutes, we received a correction from Councilmember DeMichelle. The minutes were corrected and reposted earlier today. It was a small correction under committee reports, and with approval of the consent calendar, you would be approving the revised corrected minutes.
Thank you very much for that. So I'm still not seeing anything in the chat about anybody wishing to pull something down. So before we move to the motion, I'd like to ask Council President Hunt if she had any emails or comments to share on any of the items on the consent calendar that may have been submitted by the public.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We did not receive any emails on the consent calendar this evening.
That is great. Thank you. Would anybody prepare to make a motion? Council President Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is Council President Hunt. I move to adopt the consent calendar as it appears in this evening's agenda.
This is Chris Ray. I'll second the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. I will ask the city clerk to please do a roll call vote.
Yes, beginning with Councilmember DiMichele,
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Council President Hunt,
Aye.
Councilmember Martz,
Aye.
Deputy Council President Ray,
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh.
Aye.
That's 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda this evening is a public hearing, and I'm sure our staff that is here is glad that it was corrected when I made the original announcement earlier. The public hearing is actually for AB 8031, the 2021 to 2026 six-year transportation improvement program. This is the first time this item is coming before council tonight, and it is first time it's coming before council, and tonight is the required public hearing that we will be conducting. No council action is being sought. So I'd like to invite Transportation Manager John Martinson to make a presentation. John.
Thank you very much, Mayor Polly.
Before you, while you're setting up your presentation, I'd just like to say on camera, congratulations on your promotion. Glad to see you here tonight. Very excited.
Thank you very much. All right. The purpose of tonight's presentation and the item that we're talking about is to present the 2021 to 2026 Transportation Improvement Program, to conduct a public hearing, and to come back to the council on October 5th to ask for adoption. There are several reasons why the city prepares and adopts a transportation improvement program. The first one is that it's good policy to have and good practice to have a 6-year planning document. The other reason is it allows the city to receive funding. This is how the designs in the 2 Newport Way projects were funded and how the city funded the construction of the East Lake Sammamish Parkway widening, the Southeast 62nd extension, and the Dogwood Bridge project. And the final reason is that it is the Revised Code of Washington 35.77.010 requires that the city prepares and adopts a 6-year transportation program that is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. Every 2 years, the city prepares a capital improvement plan. And the capital improvement plan includes a variety of capital assets, such as the utilities, parks, facilities, technology and equipment, and the transportation improvement program is a component of the capital improvement plan. This year's update to the Transportation Improvement Program is a minor update from last year's Transportation Improvement Program. It is consistent with the city's current comprehensive plan. The Mobility Master Plan is something that the city has been working on, and the policies from the Mobility Master Plan are being considered as an update to the comprehensive plan. Next year, a major work plan will be to incorporate any changes to the transportation element of the comprehensive plan into the transportation improvement program, and we're expecting to do a major overhaul of the transportation improvement program. This slide is a visual representation of what the previous slide explained, that this year for the transportation improvement program, it is based on the existing comprehensive plan and the transportation policies. In the future, the Mobility Master Plan will be considered for an update in the comprehensive plan and the transportation policies. And then the outcome of that will guide the future transportation improvement program, which will then be entered into the capital improvement plan. Over the rest of the presentation, I'm going to give a summary of some of the changes from the 2020 to 2025 Transportation Improvement Program, as well as talk a little bit about the work that the city will be working on during the 2021 year. Of the changes, and this is a partial list, there's Exhibit B is a memo inside the agenda packet, which gives a full, more detailed list of the changes from last year's Transportation Improvement Program. But this is some of the more major ones. And the first project is the 2nd Avenue Southeast Sidewalk Project. That was one where the work plan was to apply for a Safe Routes to School grant last spring. And with changes in the work plan due to COVID and the pandemic, the city did not apply for a Safe Routes to School grant, and that project has been moved to the future years. The next change is for the project, the TR-003, a crossing of I-90 somewhere around 10th or 12th Avenue Northwest. And that project was moved out into the future by 2 years to allow more planning and coordination with potential locations of the light rail station. The Central Park traffic signal and mini roundabout was originally on the list of projects that were being considered for a transportation benefit district sales tax increase that would support debt. And the city did not pursue an increase to the sales tax this year. And as a result, this project was moved into the future in the Transportation Improvement Program. The Northwest Gilman Boulevard Improvements Project is one that, due to staffing, due to changes in work plan due to COVID and the 2020 underspend plan, did not happen and is currently not proceeding. And that is a project that we'll need to identify funding for in order to move it forward again. And then the final project on the list that I wanted to talk about tonight is the Tibbetts Valley frontage improvements. That is we delayed that project 1 year in order to allow the Parks Department to complete the Tibbetts Valley Master Plan, which will then help guide this project. This map shows the locations of the projects that will be worked on in 2021, and you can use it as a reference to see where the different projects are located at as I talk about them. The first project is the turn lane capacity project at the location of 12th Avenue Northwest and SR 900. This is the third and final project in the Costco development agreement. Design began last spring. Work during the 2021 year will be to complete the design, work on the wetland study and obtain the Corps of Engineers wetlands permits, and acquire right-of-way for the project with the plan to begin construction in spring of 2022. The Newport Way SR 900 to 54th project is close to 90% design, but we have a few other things that are going to happen along this corridor. The first one is a speed table and pedestrian bridge will be designed and constructed near the King County trailhead. Work will take place to repair the landslide that also occurred near the King County property. The environmental approvals for the corridor project between SR 900 and 54th will be approved. And then the final thing for this project is last spring, the city applied for a right-of-way grant, and the city was awarded this grant and will have money to acquire right-of-way in the year 2024. The Newport Way Maple to Sunset project is about 30% designed. Work during the 2021 year will be to continue the design and acquire some of the right-of-way for the project. The Northwest Sammamish Road Non-Motorized Improvement Project is a project that will provide a non-motorized connection between Lake Sammamish State Park and the neighborhoods south of Lake Sammamish. Currently, WashDOT is moving a retaining wall in order to make room for this project. During 2021, design will begin, and design during the 2021 year will involve community input and creating a project concept that will be approved for the project and identifying potential funding sources. And this is a project that Councilmember DeMichelle had a question about and actually found an error. And in the current transportation improvement program, we're showing money from the School Zone Safety Fund to construct this project in 2022 and 2023, and there is not enough money in this fund, and this project will be updated before this item comes back to the council on October 5th. The pavement management program extends the life of pavements throughout the city. A variety of treatments are used to preserve the pavement. On arterials, crack seals and overlays are performed, and the life of residential streets is extended through installing cape seals. The Southeast 43rd and Providence Point traffic signal project is currently under construction. Work began this spring. Currently, the contractor is nearing completion of the underground utilities and retaining walls. The next work on the project will involve installing the realigned driveways and the traffic signal, paving, and installing the landscaping. Work is expected to begin in work is expected to be completed in early 2021. The Southeast 43rd and East Lake Sammamish Parkway Roundabout Modifications Project is a safety project that will enhance pedestrian facilities and remove the southbound through lane. The interim improvements have been completed and the design is currently underway. This project will be under construction in 2021. And the final project is TR 058 Strategic Small Capital Projects. This is a result of the strategic plan's mobility goal to create near-term connections and efficiencies. It might involve improving a crossing or filling in a gap of sidewalk. During 2021, small projects will be identified, designed, and constructed. These are small-scale projects meant to have a big impact on the people who live, work, and play in Issaquah. The next steps are following this presentation. There will be a public hearing to receive feedback from the community. On October 5th, we will ask the council to adopt the Transportation Improvement Program. And beginning in January 2021, work will begin with the Transportation Advisory Board to incorporate the adopted transportation policies of the Comprehensive Plan into the 2022 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Program and Capital Improvement Plan. And that concludes my presentation. And if there are any questions?
Thank you very much, John. I'm going to go back to Council President Hunt first to see if the public had sent in any comments on this item. Council President.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We did not receive any email comments on this item.
Great. Then we are going to move into questions. And I see in the chat box that Councilmember Walsh has some questions. Councilmember Walsh.
Thank you. So I noticed that this year's TIP is a lot shorter than our previous TIP. And the things that I notice are missing are things that were on the previous TIP for future years. So the previous TIP was 2018 to 2022, and then also in many cases didn't have progress on items in those years, but had a dollar value attached to them on future years. I'm not seeing that in this case. So was there a reason for the shift? And is there a way that we're keeping track of other projects that we still have future needs, but which we're not necessarily planning to make progress on during the time period of this TIP?
Thank you, Councilmember Walsh. I'll have to double check. I thought we did include the future years project, and if we didn't, I will revise it and include those into the transportation improvement program. It came towards the end.
Okay, and I would clarify that there is a future years column to track costs on the ones that are included in this year's TIP, but like, for example, there was a previous project, TR 029, Old Town Parking Structure, for $10 million. That was something that isn't something that, you know, we necessarily are planning to make progress on, but it kind of lists out future needs that we as a community have identified. I'm not saying that one's on the top of my list, but there are many items on there that I'm just not seeing on this year's TIP. So, and then I have another question, if that's okay, Mayor. Okay, fantastic. One of the things I notice is project TR 033 Black Nugget. Again, looking back at the previous year's TIP, the Black Nugget retaining wall repair was listed with $2 million to be spent in 2022 and a total project cost of almost $2.6 million. I'm looking at this new TIP. I see the first project cost is in 2026, and it's for $5 million. I'm wondering if we can get some information about, first of all, why the difference in cost between the two of those, and also what gives us the feeling that that wall can last that much longer, and why that project would happen in 2026 rather than earlier.
Okay. That is one I'd like to provide more information before the October 5th meeting, if that would be okay.
Fantastic. And then I will throw one more in there. What's the difference between the concrete maintenance and the pavement management line items on here?
The concrete maintenance item would be to repair the curb and gutter or the sidewalk, to make improvements, repairs to the concrete next to the road. And the pavement management program takes care of, in most cases, the asphalt pavement, or if we had concrete pavement, it could be used to repair that item as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Walsh. Deputy Council President Ray.
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. This is Chris Ray. Just a couple of questions for you, John, and I'm just going to pile on. Congratulations on the promotion, well deserved. First, the non-motorized transportation project for South Cove. When we were contemplating that, we funded WashDOT with a $3 million something allocation, so that if they had overruns, that it would cover the cost of that. Do we know what the status of that is, and if we know if that $3 million might come back to us? Do you have any insights into that yet?
Yes, thank you for the question, and congratulations, Deputy Council President Ray. To answer your question, the project is under construction, and we've asked WashDOT about it. Knock on wood, so far it's looking good, but they don't want to get our hopes up yet that we'll get that $3 million back.
Can I add to that as well, John? This is the mayor. I believe when I checked in with Director Goldberg, and the city administrator can correct me if it's wrong, we haven't actually given them $3 million. We've made sure that we had borrowing capacity to borrow it if we needed it. So if it is not required, it means you have the capacity to borrow additional money for other projects.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and it's the allocation of it. When does that hold come off so that we can use that for potentially other improvement opportunities? My second question I have is a little bit different, and it's what's the alignment between the master mobility plan and the current TIP that we're going to be voting on here in a couple of weeks? And what do we see as the areas that are likely to change in the next update to the TIP to reflect what's in the master mobility plan?
Okay. I think in a lot of ways, this current transportation improvement program does align with a lot of what the mobility master plan has, although this transportation improvement program aligns with the current comprehensive plan and the transportation element of it. And so going forward, as the mobility master plan policies are considered as part of a comprehensive plan adoption, the outcome of the TIP will really vary depending on if those policies are adopted as is or if there are any revisions. But I think one of the biggest things will be a strong priority in non-motorized and transit. I think that'll be the biggest difference.
Deputy Council President Ray, does that answer your question, or would you like?
No, I'm great. Thank you very much.
Oh, great. Thank you. I am not seeing any other questions in the chat at this point in time. I'll give it a few seconds to let people fill in if they have any. Okay, so seeing no further questions, the guidelines for citizen comments also apply to those that would be making comments under this public hearing, and I'm opening the public hearing at 8:09 p.m. And for those who have joined us tonight and would like to speak but did not sign up in advance, I would ask you to please press *3 on your phone. We will call the last 2 digits of your phone number when it is your turn to make comments. City Clerk, has anyone signed up or indicated a desire to speak this evening?
No, Madam Mayor, no one has signed up in advance. I see that we've just had one member of the public join our call. If you are interested in making comments, phone-in caller, please press *3 on your phone. That's *3, and let us know if you'd like to make comments under the public hearing. Okay, and I do see that they've raised their hand, so I will unmute you. Go ahead and make your comments.
Hi, this is Councilperson Hunt. I apologize, but my internet is out, so I'm calling in.
Oh, that is a great surprise. Thank you, Council President Hunt, for letting us know. So I do not believe the Council President raised her hand to provide comment tonight, but she has let us know that that is her call-in number. Thank you very much. So City Clerk, I would assume that means we do not have anybody signed up for comment this evening.
That's correct, and there are no other members of the public on the line.
Great. Is there any objection to my closing the public hearing? I'll look in the chat box to see. I do see Councilmember Walsh's question. I think we should get through the public hearing closure, and then sure, you can ask another question. That would be great. Okay. Hearing none, I now close the public hearing at 8:11 p.m. The administration proposes that the Transportation Improvement Program will return to Council for adoption at the October 5th Council meeting on the consent calendar, potentially, depending. We've heard a lot of requests for information tonight. So first, what I'd like to do before we move through the next question, I'd like to go back to Councilmember Walsh and see what the additional question is. Councilmember Walsh.
Thank you. This is Councilmember Walsh. I just wanted to check in on the Providence Point intersection that was listed as TRO 31 and just see where the status of that project is and whether or not the $300,000 there covers that through the end of the project.
And Mr. Martinson, if you have that information tonight, great. If you don't, you can provide it in a response, and we'll make sure we reiterate that at the next opportunity. John?
Yes, I do have that information. And so we're currently under construction. The work to relocate the utilities is underway, and then the traffic signal will start going in pretty soon, and then the work to reline the driveways. It looks like that, well, I don't want to get too far ahead, but it looks like we will be coming in under budget, and that 300,000 that's budgeted for 2021 will be enough to complete the project with the current amounts of money that have been budgeted for the project.
Thank you, Councilmember Walsh. I'm going to cross my fingers as we still have a few months to go and some weather, but thank you for that, John. So the original proposal was to have it on the consent calendar, and I just want to check in with the council and give you an opportunity to comment on the agenda timing or placement, meaning coming back on October 5th and being on consent or regular business. So if you would like to provide some input on that, please use the chat box and I'll call on you.
And Madam Mayor, this is the clerk here. I just wanted to let Council President Hunt know that her line is open since she can't enter anything into the chat. Council President, you do have an open mic currently.
Thank you for letting me know.
Councilmember, let's see, Deputy Council President Ray, followed by Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. This is Chris Ray. Just a quick comment. Since this update to the Transportation Improvement Program is a minor update, and it appears to be that most of the changes that we're seeing from previous years have been to push out the work because of financial exigencies. My preference is that, unless something changes between now and then, that we take this up at our next council meeting, and that I would be fine if it was on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Deputy Council President Ray. Councilmember Hall.
Thanks, Mayor Pauly. This is Zach Hall. Yeah, I was just going to generally say the same thing, although if it does seem like there are a lot of long-term projects that seem to have been missed, I think that that's something we should probably not have on consent, just so that we can talk through the ones that didn't make it, that haven't carried over to this plan. And I haven't had a chance to look at the previous year's TIP yet either, so.
Okay, thank you. So we'll take that into consideration because we did have some questions this evening. So thank you both for that. If I don't have anybody else wanting to weigh in on that at this point in time, I'll give it a few seconds. I will move to the regular business item for this evening, which is AB 8032. And I would like to thank you, John, for the presentation, and thank you for answering the questions this evening. So the regular business item is AB 8032, Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, CARES Act, funding allocation. And the action before council this evening would be to authorize that. And I'd like to invite City Administrator Wally Bobkowitz to introduce this item.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Good evening. We are fortunate to report this evening that the state of Washington has allocated additional dollars from their CARES allocation to the cities throughout the state. And our additional allocation, according to the state of Washington, will be $563,850. Mayor Pauly, upon receiving this information at the end of August, wanted to make sure that we spend the money expeditiously to help our community. And so we are before you this evening with a proposal for the allocation of those dollars. I'm joined by Jen Davis-Hayes, our Economic Development Manager, Jeff Watling, our Parks and Community Services Director, and Monica Negrilla, our Human Services Coordinator, and they're each going to detail some of the spending, the majority of the spending that Mayor Pauly is proposing. But let me just go through this in a broad stroke. First, $250,000 for business assistance. The initial allocation of business assistance, I think, has been very well received. And Jen is here in a moment to detail the proposals on how this next $250,000 will be spent. Secondly, $250,000 for assistance for human services agencies. This would be the third allocation that we've made toward human services, first being a general fund allocation made by the council very early on during the pandemic. And then, of course, there was a second tranche of money with the first CARES Act allocation from the state of Washington. Then finally, the administration is proposing that the balancing number $63,850 be allocated to expenses already incurred by the city of Issaquah to fight the pandemic. We have expenses into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, which we have not had reimbursed. Rightfully, the council has decided to take the lion's share of the CARES dollars, be allocated to assist the community, but we feel it would be appropriate to withhold that $63,850. Madam Mayor, before I have Monica and Jen give their report, I think it's important for the community to understand that the Congress of the United States has not allocated any money to cities under $500,000 in the United States. So unless a city has received funds from a county over $500,000 or their state, they have not received that dollar. So there are hundreds and hundreds of cities throughout America who have fought this pandemic without any assistance from the federal government. The National League of Cities, the United States Conference of Mayors, and other local government associations have worked hard in Washington to convince the need. Certainly, we have laid off staff members. We have cut things, as you've heard this evening, an impact on our capital improvement program. But the Congress of the United States has not deemed to allocate any dollars to local governments under $500,000 in the United States. So we are fortunate that the state of Washington has made this allocation. It is helpful to us as a municipal government. It is also helpful to our communities. But again, there are many, many hundreds and hundreds of communities around America, city governments who have received no funding from that. So again, communities under 500,000. There are 35, I think, cities in America over 500,000 that have received funding, all the 50 states, but all the other 4,000 local governments in America have not received that funding. So with that, unless there's any preliminary questions, Madam Mayor, I'd like to introduce Jen Davis-Hayes to give an overview of what we're proposing for this next tranche of money, $250,000 for businesses.
Just one little, this is the mayor, just one little correction. I want to make sure it's clear to everybody who might be watching that it's a population of 500,000. It's not that your annual budget is $500,000. So I believe the only city in Washington state that qualified for direct CARES Act funding was Seattle, if I'm not mistaken. So that shows you how many other cities and towns in Washington did not. Jen, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, City Council members. As City Administrator Bobkowitz mentioned, our recommendation is to allocate $250,000 to help support our city's economy through our businesses. $200,000 of that will be to award additional business grant funding. So that's from the existing pool. We would be able to fund an additional 17 businesses from our original small business response grant that was done in July, and an additional 5 businesses from our business reinvention grant pool that was done in August. And we are also looking to, as you heard some concerns tonight from some of the public comment, to create a new grant program for restaurants throughout the city for $30,000 total pool. They can apply for grants from as low as $500 to $5,000 to either extend outdoor seating eating options or address indoor eating, public health and social distancing needs. So we have heard over and over again the concern about restaurants as people are no longer able to eat outside, or that they're not well prepared to provide those things indoors. We want to provide that opportunity for our restaurants and other food service businesses throughout the city. And then the last $20,000 would be to extend the streetery and to winterize it through October. And again, that will help the restaurants in downtown Issaquah to allow them to continue that successful program. If there's any questions, I'll take them now or wait till the end.
I think if it's okay, Jen, we'll get through Monica's side of the presentation as well. And then if the council members have a question, just indicate in the chat and I'll call on you after. Monica, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, council members. So following Jen's presentation for Human Services, our recommendation tonight follows a similar model with the first round of allocation. As a brief reminder, in June, the council authorized $200,000 for Human Services, and this was distributed to 5 organizations providing food and basic needs services, as well as housing-related legal assistance. So this time around, we follow a similar model, focusing on food and housing stability, as these were priorities of our city during the COVID-19 response. This time, though, we are also adding in our proposal mental health services due to the increased need and projected long-term impact on mental health. Again, similar with last time, depending on the agency's abilities to spend the funds in the very short time frame provided by the CARES Act, we would like to seek council approval to allow for just a limited flexibility to make adjustments as necessary within the allocations proposed, to ensure that we can spend the money, and especially the organizations can spend those funds in the time allotted. So specifically, we are proposing to allocate $100,000 for the Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank. The food bank during the COVID crisis, they have increased their operations, and in addition to just the regular model, they also provide emergency food deliveries to seniors and then other residents in need. Now they continue to provide food to students, especially trying to complement the meal and nutrition program that the school district offers, focusing on school breaks and weekends. And so we thought that money will be well spent by the food bank. And then the second bucket on housing, and this we propose $120,000 to be allocated to. On one end, we would like to set aside some limited funds towards mediation services, depending on what council decides in the next couple of weeks. We know that, again, we need to spend the money in a short period of time, and we only have a couple of months to do so. But if council will move forward with mediation services, we would like to set aside at least $10,000, $20,000, or even $30,000 for that. And then in addition, we would like to propose to distribute funds to supportive housing services, to Alpha Supported Living. They are an organization that work with individuals with developmental disabilities. They have 4 housing units in Issaquah that provide 24/7 care, and they've been really struggling during the COVID response in providing those services to residents. And then finally, the other 2 organizations proposed under the housing providers are the YWCA, Issaquah Family Village, and Imagine Housing as our 2 low-income housing providers in the city. And we are working on trying to contract, and we are pursuing a collaborative approach with them. One of the proposed models would be to cover 40% of the household's rent from the city through the CARES Act funds, and with 30% being covered by the low-income housing providers, with the remaining 30% balance that would have to be covered through a payment plan by the residents. This is just one of the options that we are considering. We are also working, again, just with the low-income housing providers in looking at what can residents realistically provide, and working through a payment plan with them also. And so finally, we are also proposing $30,000 to go towards mental health services, specifically to Friends of Youth, which is a local organization here in Issaquah, providing a comprehensive array of services to children and families, youth, 18 to 24, and children as early as birth to 18. And I think with that, I'm going to stop here, and I'm available for questions as well.
That is great. Thank you, Monica. I'm going to give the council a few seconds to enter in the chat, and I just wanted to echo something that the city administrator had said, which is that we have not directly received CARES Act funding. If there's an opportunity in the next few weeks as Congress and the Senate consider a package, I will be poking council members to help sign or write letters with me to our Congresswoman. I have been updating her, Congresswoman Schreier, with business information and food and housing security needs by sharing the dashboard from Monica and information from Jen constantly through this period of time. And so the need is great. Cities do not have a revenue source to pay for this. It's going to be ongoing, and it's going to go for a longer time. We need their help. We really need their help. So it looks like Deputy Council President Ray has the first question. Actually, sorry, if I may, can I go to Council President Hunt first to see if there are any comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We did receive 2 comments by email on this topic. Both of the residents who emailed us on this topic were broadly supportive of the streetery and specifically of the work that DIA has been doing in support of the streetery and would support continuing it. And one of the residents who wrote to us specifically supported continuing it throughout the month of August.
Thank you very much, Council President Hunt. Your signal is getting a little choppy again, though. But we heard
October.
it. I think, yes, I think we heard it quite clearly. Deputy Council President Ray.
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. This is Chris Ray. Just a couple of quick questions, and one is just my own clarification. This funding needs to be spent by who's ever going to spend it by the November 30th. Is that correct?
Yes,
I see heads nodding, so I can
yeah.
take that as a yes. Can we, or our grant recipients, can they prepay for services and count that as spent by November 30th, or does it actually have to be services paid for and rendered by November 30th?
Thank you. Let's go to Jen first and then Monica. Sorry, Jen, go ahead.
That's okay. So I'm sorry, for the business grants, the actual eligibility timeframe is March 1st through November. So they can have already paid, and it's similar to the other grants that we did. So because we already have the applications in hand, we can quickly get that information out and also get the reporting and the receipts back, which are also important for us to have.
Monica.
And I'm just going to add, it's very similar for human services as well in terms of start day of March 1st. The only difference is that for human services organizations, that they cannot use the money to account for budget losses. And so that makes it a little bit more difficult, especially since they had quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
Yes, indeed. So I think this is back to you, Monica. So can we do direct rental assistance? Can we use the funds for rental assistance, or does there have to be reimbursement of providers' expenses?
So yes, the intent will be to account the money towards rental assistance for the 2 low-income housing providers.
Okay.
It's just we are going to try to do it in bulk rather than trying to go resident by resident, just again to buy some time.
Okay. And seriously, my last question, this one back to you, Jen, is the standard grants would be the same as we did last time at the $10,000 maximum level, but there would be more flexibility around the grants that would be aimed towards restaurants and food service providers. Is that correct?
So if we would approve this, the $200,000 would go for grants that were up to $10,000 for the 2 different programs we've already done. And then we would do a new grant that would be up to $5,000 for restaurants. So that would be separate, and we'd reduce that amount a bit because realizing it may not cost as much to buy tents and heat lamps and that type of thing. And we want to help as many restaurants throughout the city as we can.
Do we have any data about how many grants we gave to restaurants in the first round of funding, and or how many grants would we be giving to restaurants through the current round of funding?
I can count that up as we continue to ask questions, because in your packet is the list of all the businesses that receive grants through the 2 programs, and so now I haven't looked at that. What I will say is, in the winterization grant, we're saying we will give priority to those who have not received the City of Issaquah grant. So if we get $100,000 worth of requests, we will first provide resources to those who did not receive a grant previously.
That makes good sense. I guess what I'm poking at is the allocation right between the 200 for general purpose business grants and 30 for restaurant winterization support grants, or would it make sense to swing some money from the general purpose grants into the restaurant winterization grants, because it touches more people? So that's the question I personally am wrestling with. So for right now, I'll just stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Council President Ray. I just want to check in with Jen. Did you, in regards to the deputy's question, Chris, did you need to ask it to get the information you need, or are you thinking of suggesting moving between the 2 allocated amounts, 200 and the 50?
I can probably, I'll listen to the rest of the comments and questions, and then I'll come back if that's okay. Thank you.
Yep. It looks like City Administrator Bobkowitz wants to make a comment, and then we'll go to Councilmember Hall.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, Deputy Council President Ray. We thought very carefully about the allocation for the winterization. We have been talking with restaurants outside of Front Street since the beginning of the pandemic to try to get a sense of interest in doing more outside. And quite honestly, we have not heard as much interest as we might have thought. We continue to talk to those restaurants. Either they don't have the ability with their property owners to use the private property for parking on the outside. So we are kind of erring on the side of putting more money in the hands of more businesses, knowing that perhaps not every restaurant in Issaquah has the ability to go outside for lots of different reasons. So that's the reason we made the allocation, the proposal as we have.
Thank you, City Administrator. That was very helpful.
Great. Let's go to Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Paula. This is Zach Hall. I had a similar question along the lines of the $30,000 grant pool for restaurants to extend outdoor seating. So it's good to hear that we'll be prioritizing new businesses, but is it still a random lottery, or what's the system for awarding grants out of that pot?
Yes, and so that would be our process if we receive grants more than $30,000. And again, we're not really sure that we'll receive as much as $30,000 of grants. And then, so we would randomly order them, and then go down. And if someone again has received funding before, we would go to the next person until we get to the $30,000. And I just counted up real quick. So there were 10 businesses currently that received them. And on the new allocation, there'll be 2 additional ones. I did reach out to property managers when we were exploring this option for the winterization, because again, we wanted to make sure that it made sense. There are some places like Gilman Village, which has been is easier to do those outdoor seating. We've heard back from several of those. We've heard from some property over on Mall Street and some restaurants in some other areas, but it's not as wide of as City Administrator Bobkowitz mentioned, it's not as wide of as an opportunity. So the other thing is people were thinking, yeah, that might be good for a few months, but whether or not in December those investments will still make sense, but they will have them for early spring as well if we're still in this situation.
Thank you, Jen. I am not seeing any other questions at this time, and I'm wondering if someone is prepared to make a motion. Actually, yeah, sorry. That would be appropriate, because if Councilmember Ray has additional conversation, he can have it then. Council President Hunt.
Thank you. This is Council President Hunt. I move to authorize the allocation of $563,000 $200,850 designated to the city by the state of Washington from the coronavirus aid security, chairs, restaurant weatherization assistance, and $250,000 for assistance to human services agencies serving Issaquah residents, and $63,850 to be used for reimbursement of expenses incurred by the city related to the pandemic, and direct the finance director to include the revenue and related expenditures in a subsequent 2020 budget amendment.
And is there, oh, I see Deputy Council President Ray.
This is Chris Ray. I second the motion.
Thank you. So, Council President, we got about 98% of your words. So that I think we have most of it, but after the comments and discussion, I will make sure to reread the whole motion. So thank you. It looks like Council President, Deputy Council President Hunt would like to make a comment. Council President.
Thank you. This is Council President Hunt. I apologize for my internet problems. Hopefully you can understand me. I wanted to indicate my support of the motion. I did make the motion that appears in our agenda packet. And I also wanted to thank the administration and the multiple departments that have worked on getting this funding allocated and out the door to people that need it so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing anybody else in the chat box, but oh, there we go. Councilmember DeMichelle, you're up.
Thank you. This is Councilmember DeMichelle. I admit to becoming a little yclept, I think is the way you say that word, when I was reading our council packet and reading the letters and emails that we received from small business owners who had received previous grants. The need is great, and I think one of the things that I took away from all of those letters and emails was that each business is a very individual business, and they were given an amount of money that they needed and were able to use it specifically for what they needed in their businesses. And I think it's a wonderful thing that we've done. I'm very proud that Issaquah has put people first, and these are tough times, and we cannot afford to meet all the need, but we are doing what we can. And I am proud of that. And I'm getting yclept again. However you say that word, I will stop because it makes me teary to hear how grateful people are, how appreciative, and I think how well thought out this package is. And I too will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember DeMichelle. Deputy Council President Ray.
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. This is Chris Ray. Thank you to the team for pulling this together and the allocations. I really appreciate the legwork that was done so that we could understand really what the need is and how best to use the limited resources we have to make the greatest impact. So I think this is a really good approach, but I would like to see some data coming back as we move forward with the grants so we can see where that money is going and learn from this and make sure that we are, if we have another chance, in a position to help those with the greatest need and helping to create that sense of community that makes us such a great place to live.
Thank you, Deputy Council President Ray. I'll give a few moments to see if any other council members would like to speak to it before I reread the motion. All right. The proposed motion before the council that has been moved and seconded is to authorize the allocation of $563,850 designated to the city by the state of Washington from the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act as follows. $250,000 for economic development assistance, including business grants and restaurant weatherization assistance, and $250,000 for assistance to human services agencies serving Issaquah residents, and $63,850 to be used for reimbursement of expenses incurred by the city related to the pandemic, and direct the finance director to include the revenue and related expenditures in a subsequent 2020 budget amendment. I will move to the city clerk for our roll call vote.
Starting with Councilmember Goodman.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Council President Hunt.
Aye.
Councilmember Martz.
Aye.
Deputy Council President Ray.
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh.
Aye.
Councilmember DeMichelle.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes unanimously. I have to say, when Councilmember DeMichelle said that this can make her feel quite emotional, there was down my spine that we got this good work done tonight, because this makes a really, really big difference. So thank you very, very much. The next item on our agenda this evening is good of the order, and I do know that Councilmember Hall has something. So I will let him start and see who else signs up in the chat. Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. This is Zach Hall. Now on to the fun stuff. I guess I'll start, just for the public and for the city council. I would like to bring up a number of policy questions that have been raised to the Cascade Water Alliance Board of Directors for feedback and discussion amongst us all here. I was able to send out some language earlier today, but I'll ask you and the mayor, if you'd like, I'll read through it all and we can go through question by question. I just saw a shake and a nod, so I'm not sure. Perhaps we could ask that question to the council, mayor, and see what they think.
That sounds good. There was a significant amount of information and detail passed today. I would suggest that it would make sense for the Councilmember Hall just to introduce the question, and if you had any follow-up questions or comments on the information you provided, great. We're really just looking for general direction on how our council, as a member of Cascade Water, feels about this. So I would suggest you ask the questions, and the council will follow up if they have any comments or questions.
Okay. So then I'll start with the first policy question before Cascade Water Alliance Board, and that has to do with the setting of new rates in the coming years. So I'll just read off this first couple bits, which kind of wraps up most of the arguments. So staff for Cascade Water Alliance had presented us with several different scenarios for rate increases in the coming years, and has recommended an option that would follow a 2.2% annual increase for 5 years. And another option that we studied was setting a 0% increase in 2021, followed by a 4% increase in 2022 and 3% increases in 2023 and 2024. So that's 0, 4, 3 for the next 2 years. Mayor Pauly and I have been supportive of a 0% increase in 2021 for a number of reasons, but the majority of the Cascade Water Alliance Board supports a 2.2% annual increase over 5 years for a couple of reasons. One, well, I should say primarily because if the economy is still struggling next year, the board might not be interested in having a 4% increase in 2022. And this other option would make it a 2.2% increase in 2022. So if council would like any additional information through that section, I can walk through some more arguments in favor or opposed to each one, but we kind of just wanted to better understand your general thoughts on rates moving forward at Cascade.
I just add a little bit to, this is the mayor,
Please.
what Councilmember Hall said, and that is that we think both options are good. As members of the board, we believe that the 0, 4%, and then 3.33 has a couple benefits to it. Our city staff says that either rate structure is fine. So it's kind of more along the line of this council's been working hard and lobbying through FCA not to have increases next year. this is just a question. Are you comfortable with the increases? Did you want us to advocate for the 0% and 4%? And by the way, those are across Cascade members and do not necessarily mean that Issaquah's water users that use Cascade water would get those increases. So it's just sort of a political question of where your heads are on that. Councilmember Goodman, followed by Council President Hunt.
Thank you, Councilmember Goodman here. Have they put forth any ways to save any money? Or
well,
are the rates just what the rates are in order to cover capital?
I think this is the mayor. I believe the original proposal was to do some flat 3% increases through the next year. So the 2.2 is a lower increase than what they were originally proposing. Have they included other cost-saving measures such as staff reductions, canceling removing other expenditures? They have not. They have not. And that is similar to many of the organizations that we work with that are not directly accountable to the ratepayer or the taxpayer.
Okay. Thank you. We want questions and comments at the same time, or questions and then comments? What do you want to do?
There really only, this is the mayor again, there really only are a couple of significant policy questions. The other ones we think are fairly straightforward. So Councilmember Hall, maybe we should go through them one at a time. So anybody else with comments? And I do see that Council President Hunt and Deputy Council President Ray also have questions and comments. Council President Hunt.
Thank you. This is Council President Hunt. I was formerly the alternate for Cascade Water Alliance, and so I'm familiar with some of the work that they do, and what demand were, hopefully you can hear me. The initial demand estimates were for developed in the late 1990s, and then the demand has actually not met those, and people have been conserving a lot more water. And so I think depending on what happens in the future, we might continue to see savings in those ways, and we might be able to delay
Councilor Hunt,
so
do you want to try turning off your
be supportive
video?
of rate increase as well. Economic hardship right now.
Yeah, we're only getting part of what you're saying. Sorry about that. I'm going to go to Deputy Council President Ray.
So, thank you, Mayor Paul. This is Chris Ray. I just have a question and a clarification. So the 2.2% or whatever rate, those are increases to the wholesale rate for water, right?
Correct.
What have we analyzed what the impact of this would be on our water system plan, since we just adopted a water system plan based on an increase in Cascade water? I'm just wondering, was this in what we were factoring, and what impact will it have on our rates? Because I think it's all fine and well what happens well was not intended as a play on words, but I'm going to take it anyway. I think it's all fine that, whatever the rate increase is, but I'd like to, if we could, arm you with some insights into what the impact is going to be on our ratepayers and what's it going to do to their the water part of their bill if there's a 2% or a 4% or what have you percent increase in the wholesale rates. It'd be very helpful.
Great. That is great. Thank you. They are two separate issues. So the purchase of wholesale water is set at one price, but the purchase of surplus water, as far as my limited understanding is at a different price. And so what we will do is provide some information to council. We'll get Interim Public Works Director, Mr. York, to tell you what the other prices are. So I'm not sure that it has a significant impact on that because that water pricing is discounted. And Councilmember Hall did collect some information on if it's a 0 first year, 4% second year, or 2.2, 2.2, what the impact is to our current water usage around Cascade Water, what they would pay in Issaquah. And Councilmember Hall, did you want to share that information?
Yes and no. It's a little confusing for next year because no matter what, our ratepayers will see a significant amount of savings due to a one-time kind of unique true-up. But let me actually pull up the chart that shows the impact to City of Issaquah.
So I'll expand on that. We pay a rate based on an estimated usage. And when it's all sorted out at the end, there's a true-up that happens. And so the true-ups sometimes go in your favor and sometimes go against you. Issaquah is using less Cascade water now than it was. I'm not sure if it's related to the PFAS issue. There was a specific
I think it was related to Talus. Sorry to interrupt.
Talus. And so our usage has gone down, and therefore the amount that we're paying has gone down. Sammamish Plateau Water and Sewer District has decided to purchase more water in a blending operation, and they see significant increases in it. So this is this true-up that happens, and so our residents won't really see it. Other members of Cascade Water Alliance, their users will see it. Sorry, I think I'm missing on questions here. Deputy Council.
Mayor Pauly, did you still want me, and Deputy Council President Ray, did you still want me to expand on some of the savings under each scenario for Issaquah, or Deputy Council President Ray, was that sufficient for you?
No, I'm great. Thank you,
okay.
Paula.
Then I'm going to move to Councilmember Marks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is Councilmember Marks. A couple things. First thing is that I was getting nervous when we talked about potential benefits down the road from conservation, because unfortunately, a lot of times with things like water, it actually has a weird net effect, right? Because the operating costs are what they are, and they're not necessarily volume dependent. So as you get conservation, hooray, the resource lasts longer, but the actual per unit costs to the billable folks can actually go up. So we need to be careful on the assumptions that we hope to see. We've certainly seen great increases in conservation in the area over the last 20 years, but it hasn't necessarily resulted in a lot better rates. Then keeping costs down, I'm all for it, but I think we need to start asking ourselves. It's quite possible that from everything that we hear, there are going to be challenges in 2021, just like there are in 2020. So we need to understand if we think that 2021 is going to continue to be a difficult year, if we think that the pandemic will continue to be an issue through 2021, we need to ask ourselves if going to 0 this year and 4% next year versus 2.2 and 2.2 is it actually a better option? I'm not positive it is. I just feel like more and more we have to assume, unfortunately, I couldn't envision 6 months ago that this wasn't going to be over by the end of the year, but everything we hear seems that this is going to be a substantial issue in 2021. I want to be careful that we don't just pile a big increase on people next year. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Good comment. Thank you. I think on the rate issue, one other point that Councilmember Hall and I were interested in sharing with you is that the timeline for converting Lake Taps to a water source may or may not extend, but at the point in time that they're doing project planning right now, these rate increases contribute partly to that new capital project. And 2.2 over 5 years will generate about $15 million less. It's a $1 billion project. That's a big project. Most of the members are not worried that it generates less. We brought up the fact that we thought $15 million was not small change, even on a big priced item, ticket item. But our interim public works director is fine with either option. So just want to make sure you have all the information. And I'm kind of hearing that there isn't a big excitement to go one way or the other. So we will just continue at Cascade on that one, saying that we're in support of either option and we see pros and cons for both options, if that makes sense. That's where we'll go on the first one. Not seeing anybody else wanting to comment. Councilmember Hall, would you like to go to the next policy question?
Absolutely, I would. This is Zach Hall. And if you have any additional feedback, maybe it strikes you mid-sleep sometime between now and Wednesday, feel free to call me. I'm usually up, but we can talk through that then too. All right, so rates, that was the biggest one. The next one regards the use of something called RCFCs, which are Regional Capital Facilities charges, which are new charges charges to new customers for new connections. I wanted to make that specific reference in the email that I sent you. I defined an RCFC as a charge to a new member for new connections, which would refer to like the city of Issaquah as a member, but RCFCs are actually charged to customers who have a new connection or want to expand on their connections. And then that goes through the city of Issaquah to Cascade Water Lines. So I just wanted to make that quick clarification for you. So it has to do with committing the use of RCFCs for construction projects only. In fact, we had a conversation with city staff, and it's actually preferred that these costs are used for capital costs instead of operational costs. And I believe we've been using it for debt service too. Mayor Pauly, feel free to correct me there, but Mayor Pauly and I are supportive of this change, and we just wanted to see if anyone on council had any thoughts about that one.
And I would suggest that if you have thoughts, please put something in the chat box, and otherwise we'll assume that you are in agreement and we'll move to the next policy question. And just a correction, it is a regional connection facility charge.
No,
not seeing anything.
Very well could be a regional connection facilities charge. I just pulled this from the PowerPoint. My apologies.
No worries. So Councilmember Hall, I'm not seeing any comments. Let's move on to the next policy question.
Perfect. So the next one has to do with adopting a 2-year cycle for rates and RCFCs instead of our current 1-year cycle. So the mayor and I are actually supportive of this transitioning to a 2-year cycle, and it might even match up nicely should we decide to move to a 2-year budget cycle for our own budget. So we wanted to see if there are any other comments or feedback on that one.
Thank you, Councilmember Hall. I am not seeing anybody in the chat box at this point in time, so I'll keep my eye on it, and you can move on to the next policy question.
It looks like Councilmember Goodman does have a comment.
There you go, Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Councilmember Goodman here. Was that the last one, Councilmember Hall?
The second to last one. We have also the policy question of the lake taps equity.
Sorry, I'll wait till you're done. Thank you.
Okay.
So the last policy question.
Yeah, so this one has to do with, this is Zach Hall, sorry. This has to do with funding a lake taps equity fund to, quote, safeguard funds, monitor progress, and provide transparency and accountability for the Cascade Water Alliance's long-term interest in lake taps.
And this is the mayor, our city staff is supportive of this, very supportive of this. Not seeing anything in the chat box right now except Councilmember Goodman. So Councilmember Goodman, we'll go back to you.
Thank you, Councilmember Goodman here. My general comment was just that I wanted to thank you, Councilmember Hall, and for bringing this up and bringing us the detail that we need to provide informed feedback. I just want to show my appreciation and say thank you.
That's really nice, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. I am not seeing anything else in the chat box. Councilmember Hall, do you feel like you have everything you need to report back out at the board meeting?
Mayor Pauly, this is Zach Hall. I think I have everything we need. Let's touch base before Wednesday, and if anyone has any additional comments moving forward, that'd be great. And thank you, Councilmember Goodman. I appreciate you saying that. I spent a lot of today trying to, and last night, trying to make this make sense in my mind, because I thought if it made sense in my mind, it would definitely make sense in your minds. So good to know.
Great. Great feedback. Thank you. I'm not seeing anybody else indicating anything for good of the order, so I will move down to the upcoming council meetings. The following upcoming meetings will be held virtually. The City Council special meeting on Tuesday, September 29th at 6 p.m. with potential agenda items including the mayor's budget presentation, and the 2019 Financial Statement Audit Exit Conference. The City Council study session on Tuesday, September 29th at 7 p.m. has the following potential agenda items: the Eastside Fire and Rescue governance model changes and the Eastside Fire and Rescue budget. And the City Council regular meeting on Monday, October 5th has the potential agenda items of the dog park, an update on the dog park, affordable housing efforts, establishing the environmental board and repealing IMC regarding the river 18.03 regarding the Rivers and Streams Board, and a franchise agreement with Zayo Communications. So those are our meetings that are coming up. I'm going to suggest that we take a 5-minute break before we start the executive session. So we'll be taking a break now at 9:02. I will see you around 9:07. Thank you.